Thank you for tuning in. This is actually a buyer and sellers series video, and this covers kind of a dreaded topic, and that is moving. So I brought in one of our industry experts, Ron Merrill from C&M Moving and Storage, to kind of answer some questions about the moving process and try to make it as stress-free, because we have this great thing happening with either buying or selling a home. We don't want to add stress when it comes to moving. So Ron, why do people stress out so bad about moving?
Well, Paul, thanks for having me today.
Sure.
You know, Paul, I eat at the same restaurants all the time, go to the same grocery store, take the same walks in my neighborhood. And so I really love that rut. You know, my wife has built a great nest for us, and we really love that. And, you know, when you move, all of that is disrupted.
True.
And so it's really just change. Most people just don't handle change real well. And so moving is one of the top 5 most stressful events that people go through. And so luckily, most people only do it about once every 8 years, but that means that they never really get to master it. So that's what leads to it being so stressful.
Right. That definitely makes sense. Yeah, I just went through the same thing myself, and it's very stressful. What, other than calling you, obviously,
Sure.
what should someone look for in a moving company? I mean, there's so many. We see billboards, we see commercials. I mean, what do they look for other than just calling a number?
Well, that's a great question. So first of all, much like the real estate industry or the mortgage industry, the moving industry is a regulated industry. And in order to be a mover, you have to have a license. And that license is issued by a state licensing body. And in Texas, that's the Texas Department of Transportation.
Okay.
So licensed movers, that's the first thing you want to look for, is a licensed mover. I would suggest that people not necessarily look at places like Craigslist or at the little signs in the front of the neighborhood. They're called bandit signs for a reason.
Right.
Usually those guys are not licensed movers. After you know, there are a variety of organizations like the American Moving and Storage Association, the Southwest Moving Association, even the Houston Movers Association. And those groups do a real good job of really vetting the very worst offenders. So they've got great moving companies, typically are members of those moving associations. What I always tell my customers is to really talk to friends and family, find out just good resources, good references. I always suggest that people talk to their realtor. Realtors are always kind of close to the moving, and so they hear great things. When people have you know, antiques and fine art and those sorts of things, I often suggest that they talk to their art dealer, their antique dealer, maybe even their interior designer, because those folks typically know who really has the fine touch and can move those delicate items. So that's my kind of list there.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about yourself, as far as like how long you've been in the industry, a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Well, at C&M, we started in March of '99, so we're 15 years old this month, and we work predominantly with executive type customers, so West University, Memorial, River Oaks, that sort of thing, and so we really get in there and deal with a lot of antiques, fine art, chandeliers, you know, those sorts of things. Of course, we move, you know, apartments all the time as well, and do a lot of high-rise work and that sort of thing. And really, we're kind of a full-service moving company.
Okay. You know, I was watching, I believe it's 2020 or Nightline a couple weeks ago, and there was one of the horror stories we hear about someone moved to a different state, and because of a dishonest mover, they're actually holding their stuff for ransom.
Right.
How does a consumer, you know, we kind of talked about how to select one. How does a consumer watch out to try to make sure that doesn't happen to them?
You know, first of all, holding stuff hostage is illegal. Okay, so that's you know, something that's gotten a lot of attention in our industry, and again, to go to a place like the American Moving and Storage Association, they have lists of people who've had hostage complaints and that sort of thing. So you want to kind of vet your mover really well. One thing that you've got to do is you've got to understand the contract that you're entering into with your mover.
Okay.
You will get a copy of that contract. Even before you sign it, you really have to understand the agreement before you enter into it. There's many different ways to charge for moving services. Often people will, movers will charge by weight, but that's an estimated weight. Right. So you can imagine if somebody estimates the weight at 10,000 pounds and then it weighs 18,000 pounds, there's a huge difference in final price.
Right.
And often that difference can be alarming to people, and that's typically kind of how these hostage situations start out. We've agreed to pay $3 per 1,000 pounds. Well, now all of a sudden it's twice as much weight as we thought it was going to be. Now the budget's blown, and then the mover, says, well, we can't give you your stuff until you pay.
Right.
So you really want to understand the contract, and my advice is to avoid contracts based on weight.
Okay.
Yeah, we offer, and many reputable companies offer flat rate pricing, where this is what your move is going to cost you, and that's that's it. It doesn't change depending on the weight or anything else. It's just a flat rate, and that's really what you want.
Right. That brings up price, which is a good thing. How can someone estimate or get a good idea of what their move is going to cost them?
Well, I'm not sure that an individual who's not in the business really can. I mean, I think the best way to do it is to get estimates from moving professionals. I really think that's kind of the starting point. Most moving companies provide free estimates.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea to get 2 or 3. I think that the thing that you really want to look for, most moving companies will give you an estimate that will include kind of the packing material requirements along with the days of labor. So
Okay.
maybe, and so you want to make sure that those things look pretty similar on each estimate, really even before you start looking at the pricing. But I'm not sure that without getting kind of a professional involved, you could kind of guesstimate.
Yeah, I mean, that's
tough.
That's scary because a few years ago, before I met you, I called a moving company and I wanted to know how much a move was, and they said, "Well, we don't give estimates. Here's just our rate per hour." And I thought, "Well,
wow,
I can't budget on that.
Right.
I can't budget on that."
Right.
So, let's say someone's getting ready to move.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it happened to me. I don't know how many trips to the box store I went and how many rolls of tape. How does someone estimate how many boxes and tape and things like that they'll need? Is that something that you can provide when you come out, or is there kind of a tool?
Well, so that's a real good question. So a standard 3,000 square foot 3-bedroom 2-bath house in West U could have 150 to 200 boxes very easily.
Okay.
If you buy a 3-bedroom packing kit from U-Haul, you get 30 boxes and a 6-pack of tape. Huge difference there, right? And so really, I mean, I think most moving companies that come out and do an estimate, part of their estimate will give you a menu of the materials that you need.
Okay.
And so that's a great place to start. But it's, it really comes with experience. So I'm not sure that there's really kind of a formula for that.
Okay. Now let's say, they're moving and they decide, you know what, I'm done packing, I'm never packing again. Can they call somebody in to just pack up their entire home for them?
Well, so some moving companies, not all, but some moving companies are full service moving companies. So in our case, we do everything from helping people stage before their home is on the market, through all the packing, storing of items. Most moving companies that offer full service will come out and even help you unpack, get rid of boxes, hang art, hang chandeliers, all that sort of thing. So certainly that kind of service is available.
And that's good, because a lot of times when I go and I meet with sellers and we talk about decluttering their house, they tell me, "Paul, that's great. What am I going to do with all this stuff?"
Right.
And so, inadvertently, they're stuck in either a year-long contract with a storage place or something like that. So it's good to know that there's another source out there. So, kind of going back to price, and this is kind of something we're covering with a lot of the people we're doing interviews with. Our society is kind of geared towards, we want the cheapest price. Right. And so we've talked about kind of selecting the company, but what would you advise them on being careful of that price?
Well, so the moving business, we all do the same thing, and we all have the same costs, right? So we have trucks, we have labor, we have materials. It's pretty much the same for everybody. There's marketing and there's legal for some companies, right? Legal defense, okay? So the typical kind of business model in the moving industry is very low wages, typically with outsourced contractors, a lot of money on marketing, and a fairly good legal defense team.
Right.
Okay, so that's kind of a pretty good model. There are a number of companies though that do it a little bit differently, such as like we do, which is high wages for our guys, no marketing, so all word of mouth, all referral, and a good enough job that we really don't need a legal department. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
I mean, you take care of customers, own up when there's a mistake.
Right.
You don't usually spend a lot of time in the courtroom.
Right. You keep your claim rate very low. You're not fighting claims all the time, and you're not having to buy leads, which is expensive, and you're not constantly looking for new customers. And so you can spend more on your guys. And when you spend more with your labor, they own their own cars, they own their own homes, they see the value of the stuff that they're moving, and they understand what it's like. They're not, kind of transient guys. They're guys who actually have a stake in the community, and,
Right.
and so they value their job, and they understand what that TV cost or what that armoire cost, and they take care of it like it's their own. And so, that's really, so that kind of service can cost a little bit more. And so, I guess circling back, your question is why not just go with the cheapest? Well, they've got to cut those costs somewhere.
Right.
Fuel's the same for all of us. Packing material's the same for all of us. So there's certain places you can't cut. So there's only a few places you can, and you don't really want to go with somebody who's cutting on the labor side.
True.
Because yeah.
Yeah. So let's say I call your office to kind of close us up, and I'm looking to move. What advice have we not covered, or what advice can you give somebody in the whole moving process?
A couple of things. The first thing is get started early. When you're thinking about putting your house on the market, when you're talking to realtors, that's a great time to get a mover involved. The estimate is free. Have somebody come out. It's better to get the estimate a couple of months before you're moving
Right.
than to wait till 2 weeks before you're moving.
Right.
Especially in this economy where things are booming, and often your moving company is going to be booked up a month or more out.
Right.
So that's a big one. And the other thing is the real key to a stress-free move is organization.
Okay.
If it's organized, everything goes off without a hitch. And so, your moving company can help you get organized. There are ways to kind of get organized and be organized throughout the move, and really, that is just key. So I think staying organized, keeping your stress level down, getting your mover involved early, I think those are the kind of things that will really help the process.
Okay, great. Well, I want to thank you for coming in, and thank all of you for tuning in to our topic of moving.